Another draft physics video presentation. Draft science here on YouTube. Got that part. Anyway, yeah, another day. So YouTube, Google, Alphabet. Isn't that a cool name? Alphabet. Ooh. Anyway, the corporation formerly known as Google is now called Alphabet. Gee, that's just so much cooler than Microsoft, right? Anyway, jeez. Life's good. Fuck you. F you. That'll be my, when I have my corporation, what it will be. F you. Anyway, I've griped about it before, but, the whole Google has all kinds of information, and they give us none of it. So when people comment, we could know what they like, what they dislike. We should be able to rate commenters, just like commenters are allowed to bilge on people's videos. We should be allowed to comment on commenters, and downrate them, and do all the same things they're allowed to do to the other producers of content, right? Because the commenters are also producers. But Google doesn't let any of that happen, because accountability is what it doesn't want, because that restricts activity, and Google just wants activity. It just wants noise. Noise makes it money. It doesn't have to have a signal. It doesn't have to educate. It doesn't have to do anything to facilitate more constructive interaction between people. That doesn't really make it money. It makes money on just having you drive in and out of your driveway. Waste gas anywhere. More waste, better. So it's always to Google's advantage to keep you misdirected, to keep you not getting the right road, to keep you driving the wrong place, going to the wrong place. It's an evil, backward incentive for the company in charge of the mapping of the internet. I mean, it's the mapping company. It's like Gulf Oil used to give away maps. You had to wonder, right? Clearly it was just it was a PR move, and it was good for good advertising and all that kind of stuff. So they did it for those reasons. But it is kind of a funny kind of conflict of interest, right? That the company that's selling you gasoline is giving you a map, and maybe the map's a little unreadable and a piece of shit, and therefore you'll use a little extra gas. That's sort of a bad incentive to have as existing. You probably don't want, if you're going to design the universe, you probably don't want the company that's selling gas to be selling or producing maps. And likewise, you really don't want to put a big fat advertising company called Alphabet in charge of your fucking internet. Alright, enough of that. The Baldy Cats rant, we'll wait because we have a comment relevant, so we'll just do the comment, and then I'll talk some about unification theories, because there was a couple of videos by PBS on the subject, and it really wasn't anywhere near the subject, because what they're really trying to do is unify the crap they already believe in. So they already have accepted silly bent space and silly quantum mechanics, and they want to somehow unify, and it's never going to happen, because essentially the fundamental problem is quantum mechanics says things don't have a location, and gravity says you have to have a location. Essentially, gravity, if it existed as a real thing, okay, would end up collapsing the wave function constantly. Right, so the force of gravity would be constantly interacting with things and constantly collapsing their wave function, so they couldn't possibly be in superpositions, because their superposition would be constantly unsuperposed by gravity. So they'll never be able to combine the two, because one of them is saying things are mushy and in who knows where, and the other thing says, well, you definitely left gravity behind. When you moved from point A to point B, you left a trail of gravity behind. And you can't just pretend that when I get to point B, I'll change what happened. You can't just do this. I can just make up what my history was because you laid the history down in a physical reality. The gravity was a physical reality. It's going on its way, and you can't retract it and say, no, I didn't really go to point B, I went to point C instead. You can't do that horse shit if gravity is an active every millisecond force, an event, a constant excretion. Okay, if the bent space is running at 10 million times the frame rate of your quantum mechanics, then the gravity, like I said, is constantly collapsing your wave function, so you never have a superposed positions. So like I said, they'll never combine those two pieces of shit. They're not smart enough. I mean, frankly, physicists aren't that smart. I mean, they're just humans, and they're gullible and just as vulnerable to buying into a pile of fairy tales as anybody else. Apparently. I mean, you thought smart people aren't that gullible, but they are. They really haven't figured out how these theories are junk. And, one of them's got to go, and frankly, both of them should go, because they're both stupid and both poorly evidenced and both wooey and both not very good answers to physical questions. And I'll explain. It all goes back to push. Push versus pull. I mean, so that's the problem, right? All the unification theories are in the context of unifying the standard model, and their standard model is a big pile of gnarly mess. You can never make anything, a theory of everything that's going to make any sense, that's not going to have, that's not going to be insanely convoluted. Out of all of the bullshit that's in the standard model, you have no hope of making a simple theory, because there's nothing simple in it. 4,000 elements. I mean, if you add up all the elements, it has like 4,000 conditional elements. Gluons, puons, duons, all these events, all these tensors, all this bullshit, all this crap. And there's no way you're going to sit there and unify that into some sort of, well, here's a good explanation of what really happened. 2 plus 2 plus 2 physics. You're not going to get 2 plus 2 plus 2 physics out of the standard model. It's just no hope. Anyway, yeah, that's probably enough of a preface, so we will move on. So anyway, but that's where, there's no hope of unifying without them saying, well, let's go back a few steps and assume we didn't fall for this mush, and then talk about physics. And then notice that the forces all move the same speed. And that they can't really be different things. If they move in the same speed, they're probably the same thing. Blah, 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 blah. But anyway, alright. So it was just sort of, I'm just pointing out, it's a waste of time listening to this silly argument about the minutia of string theory versus Bing theory versus Gazing theory. As unification theories. They're not that anyway. And it's an impossible task, frankly. Like I said, you will not unify quantum mechanics and gravity because the two things have contrary premises. Anyway, ever think about making a draft physics Discord? Well, that Zohar Co-Heavy guy already did that, and I don't even know why somebody asked me this question. What do you think Discord is? You think it's like a connection to another planet where a whole bunch of different people exist? Like they've never heard of YouTube and Twitter and all this other crap. They're just Discord people. I mean, what the hell I've never seen anything happen on Discord that isn't shit-like. I don't see anything. I don't see the way it looks. It's a chat room, for fuck's sake. It's gibberish. It's all a bunch of Twittery crap. There's nothing smart going on in there. I mean, why would I even want to go? I don't go near it to acquire anything. Why would I think there's a place? Oh, go to this Discord because you will find a lot of great stuff. What Discord does that? What Discord is producing all of this great stuff? I don't see it anywhere. It's a shithole. It's a fucking gamer chat room. I mean, it's full of clueless nerds. I mean, fuck. And trolls. I mean, it's just troll heaven. So I just don't understand you people at all. So you think, really realistically, you think the Discord people don't know what YouTube is? Oh, okay. Well, I won't hide you, but yeah, fuck that. Too stupid, okay? And then somebody types this foreign crap. Fuck you. I don't think block them. What the fuck? I mean, who needs this shit? I'm obviously don't speak foreign crap. I quite obviously don't speak it. So why the fuck would you type it at me? You don't realize how rude that is, just to walk up to somebody you know doesn't speak English and speak English at them? You would do that? I mean, you go visit China and you just talk English at all the China's people and just say, what the fuck? Why aren't you responding rationally to my English? Fuck you. Alright, good video. Whatever. Why do you have thumbs down when Ken has thumbs up? Well, obviously it's all religion, and so yes, you know, depending on your congregation, and that's all this is people have congregations of like-minded retards. So that's the sad part, is that even doing this thing of trying to get a Thunderfoot or somebody else to respond, I'm not too sure what their audience is. You know, so maybe their audience won't be able to do any better than you fuckers. You know, they'll have dopey names like Unknown, and they'll just type little bullshitisms, and it'll be useless. The world is backwards. Well, it really isn't backwards. It's just ignorant. The world is full of ignorant humans who don't have any idea how ignorant they are. They're just walking around thinking, I'm doing just fine. I'm good enough. I'm fine. I'm smart enough to drive down the street. I'm smart enough to make these decisions. And well, so what? I killed a few people. Or horribly injured them. So what if I squandered a whole bunch of resources and that meant other people had to go without? And they're too stupid to realize how complex and difficult living a good life is. They don't have any clue about any of this shit. So that's the real problem. We live in a world full of fucking morons who really don't know how dumb they are. I mean, I'm not going to call it dung and Kreger because that's just this fucking cliche rhetoric. But they're clearly too stupid to know how stupid they are. Which is just too depressing. Anyway, jump comment. Alright, Simon down there. Okay, you have fundamentally missed the point of this lecture. So he calls it a lecture, and yet it's not really a lecture. I'm not really talking the truth. I'm just giving some people generalizations. You know, up is really uppy, and down is really downy. My solar light is no longer functioning. Let me turn that off. Okay. I've checked the battery. I think it's just the fucking bulbs are cheap as hell. Anyway, always something. Yeah, living thing. You need food every day. It's such a hassle. You have finally missed the point of this lecture. It's not designed for people with physics degrees or those that think they know it all on YouTube. So he's basically making excuse. Oh, it doesn't have to be totally accurate and completely true or any of that kind of stuff. It's not like it's science or something. Yeah, it's pseudoscience. That's the whole point. You people just have no respect for the truth. You just talk this shit. We've proven it. We've done it. We're sure, so you should be sure. You're too stupid to understand. Let me tell you what the truth is. But it's not the truth. It's a big pile of crap, and that's the whole accusation I'm making, is we have a bunch of institutions talking absolute shit to people. They can't even, the preachers haven't even read the Bibles. Alright. It's not designed for people with physics degrees. That's what all the preachers of dogma say. Yeah, exactly. Lame excuse. As for know-it-all, I just claim to know what a shovel of shit looks like. That's right. See, I'm of all the little dumbasses on this planet, I'm a little tiny bit smarter in the sense that I know what shit looks like. And I know they're shoveling it. And that's it. That I know for sure. Okay, and what you sci-tubers are spreading, and that's what you sci-tubers, so I don't know what they call them, but yeah, they're pseudo-sci-tubers or whatever. just shit talkers. So no response. Anyway. Alright, Dino. So this gets to Conspiracy Cats. Conspiracy Cat said in one of his recent podcasts, it's very difficult for somebody to really put him, Gary, straight unless they are a high-level physics expert. So that was kind of a giveaway, wasn't it? He's recognizing that I do understand, and unlike what he posted on my in my comments section, the accusation that I'm misunderstanding. All of a sudden he doesn't think so now. And then he added this. So even though I know he's talking absolute guff, so that's just their generic, you disagree with me, therefore you must be wrong, even though I can't figure out how to argue against you because you're obviously making a point that I can't do anything with because it's perfectly reasonable and rational. Yeah, and that's the reason why you fail, is because, yes, I'm being reasonable and you're not. Okay, it's going to be a challenge to get my physics up to scratch between now and next week. So yes, these are all the concessions indicating he was panicking a bit. Because, yeah, he watched the video and he said, shit, I can't do anything. He's right. Okay, yeah, it looks like he's right. Oh, yeah, well, it looks like he's right. So, yeah. So he bailed for that reason. Not any of this pretense about how I'm too disrespectable because I have too many opinions and too many opinions that aren't consistent with his little mamby-pamby baby shit. No, I don't expect anyone to take my word for that. So here's the timestamp link. Listen for yourself. Yes, well, I mean, they are revealing statements. Just a few days before he bailed out of the debate, this is what he was saying. And we all know that what happened next. The debate was called off by a guy who publicly said he wasn't prepared for it. Yeah, and he wasn't even prepared to actually call me a Holocaust denier. You see that, right? So he's telling me I'm doing this thing that isn't acceptable, and yet he couldn't even make the accusation directly. He had to have somebody else do it for him. What do you think he is? You know, he had to ask some other asshole to venture, you know, to state the words. You know, and they wouldn't. Both of them didn't even state the word. So they're so pussy about recognizing the fact that, well, I made an argument that I'm really not that a rational person wouldn't call me that. But yes, if you want to be irrational and call me that, go ahead, retard. Anyway, somehow he knows that Gary is full of shit, but he can't actually defend the assertion because he admittedly doesn't know enough advanced physics, and you don't even have to know advanced physics, as I've demonstrated in all these videos. This isn't about advanced physics beyond the point of understanding that their advanced physics isn't advanced as they make it sound. Just like Feynman's silly little clock math and it's a probability that you can deconstruct all of that crap to say he did all of that shit and all he had to do was measure how thick the glass was. He didn't need to do all of that crap because all that crap was just a representation of distance. So to all the trolls still trying to frame this as Gary's not worthy or Gary is bad for that brand, just stop. Well, I mean, well, they won't stop because they can't admit, you know. And that's another tragic part of people being ignorant, is they don't understand that you really do have to fess up when you fucked up, you know, when you made a mistake. And they won't do that. We all know that's a load of bullshit. Conspiracy Cat's mouth wrote a check that he knew his brain, he figured out anyway. He didn't know it at the time, couldn't cash. He just made assumptions, okay, because that's all they do is make assumptions. They're just, and again, they don't want to read any books. They just want to laugh at the covers. We're seeing it, okay, and with the whole shill behavior, it doesn't have anything to do with a book. It doesn't have anything to do with the whole story. It just has to do with, again, oh, look how mad he is. It doesn't matter that somebody just ran over his wife or something. No, we'll just laugh at it because look how emotional he is about something. You know, some kind of bullshit like that. I mean, it would, like, again, that anybody for any purpose could do this to anybody. You know, they can mock anybody this way. It's such a cheat of the reality. It's such a quote mine of their purpose and function. that he stood a very good chance of looking like a stammering idiot in front of his own audience. Well, yes, and I was going to obviously look more credible, and yeah, and I was going to just basically show that it is true that these shit talkers are talking from, a shit house. They're throwing stones from, their glass house. As if you need to be a physics teacher to debunk flat earthers anyway. Yeah, well, you don't need to be anything, actually. But sane, right? I mean, any sane person is going to be able to say that's insane. I mean, it's so... It can't... like I said, if they're not lying about what they believe, they are insane. They're as insane as some, homeless person who, is so wacky, they can't live in a house and they can't do all these things that they could do if they weren't insane. And, flat earthers are that insane in terms of the conspiracy part of the theory is so insanely out of any realistic proportions that they obviously aren't interpreting reality anywhere close to accurately. I could do that in 5 minutes and I'm a fucking moron. But even I can tell that these people are posers picking up on the low-hanging fruit. Yes, it's I've already pointed that out, but yes, that's all it is. It's just cheating reality. They're just trying to make themselves look good by just picking all the ugly people to compare themselves to, kind of a thing. As if they climbed all the way to the top branch and solved cold fusion. Yeah, and they haven't accomplished anything. I think the clinical term for such people is pretentious dickweed. Yes, close enough. So, well stated, I think. Anyway, you hit the nail on the head, brother. Then icon crap, which I really hate. They are crazier than road lizard. Than a road lizard, which doesn't make much sense, and I don't know what this little crap after it means. So I'm going to delete it just because it's not much of a statement, and I really hate whatever hieroglyphics. I don't think it's a very good way to communicate. It's a dead language, fuckhead. Something else these idiots don't seem to understand is that the sensor, the photo paper, light transferable, whatever, consists of waves, according to their own theory. Yeah, but they think waves can travel through each other or not, and so I don't know. They probably have some rationalization for why they think the particles of the detector are not in the middle of a wave function themselves. So that's the real problem, right? If your measuring device is entangled and superimposed, then how can it measure anything, because it doesn't really have a length? Your ruler is constantly changing its length. How can you measure something with it? But according to their own theory, all waves pass through each other, so how can a photonic wave particle be made to detect by another wave particle? Well, whatever, but I don't know. That's kind of a narrow point of disagreement. I'm just saying, how can something that might already be in a superimposed state measure something in a superimposed state? I mean, it's not likely to happen. What is your opinion of quantum computing? I've already expressed it enough times. There's no entanglement, so the whole idea is stupid. But beyond that, I mean, the idea of a qubit, the idea that you can do the same processes with the same hardware at the same time is just too stupid. So they basically invented a car that can drive to Florida and drive to California and drive so it drives to every city in America at the same time. Now, we all can know that's not going to be realistic, is it? Are we really going to someday invent a car that can do that? I don't think so, and I don't think any matter in the universe is doing that, and so the whole thing is a pile of shit. Silly, stupid, mathematical shit. They will never make one of these things because it's a mathematical fantasy. And it's just as big a fantasy as the stupid singularity crap where they put all the electrons and all the protons in the same piece of space. They can't be in the same space. It can't happen. It's too stupid. I don't know. The question is, why do people believe this crap? It's just so fucking stupid. So anyway, I'm going to delete the comment just because it's kind of useless to anybody. I answered the question, and that's all it is. So the comment's purpose has been satisfied. This guy is weird, no credentials. So why would that be at all interesting? These credential things. I mean, my credentials are is that I've actually played physics lectures in my videos. So I obviously have some credentials in the sense that I could say, well, I sat in on 100 physics lectures from MIT, Yale, and Stanford. So those are pretty good credentials right there to have a conversation about physics. 100-hour-long lectures, that's pretty good. No logical speak. So again, no logical counter-argument to a single fucking thing I've said. So there's no evidence of this. So could you quote the no logical parts, please? Could you give me a time code to the no logical part? Just curious, fuckhead. Oh, this is the oh, it's old Mick Fartard. Yeah, that's it. I could write a whole song about old Mick Fartard and how he only has one brain cell and how it's really stressed out. So this guy is so clueless. He's this old fart, right? Probably 3 years older than I am, but looks like 20 years. And he's so fucking gapped. He's not like one generation gapped. He's like 5 or 6 generations gapped. So he's like some old lady talking about, you know, I don't know, ointments or something. I mean, he's just so fucking clueless. But he's pretending he's in the real world. He has a car as like his icon, like he's cool or something. You know, uses dude. I mean, it's just hopeless. But he has a video that you have to watch, really, I guess, if you're at all interested. I mean, he's doing a virus, you know, one of those songs, and it's so fucking bad. He's so, I mean, he's just so clueless of his catastrophic fail, and you know, it's just really quite funny. Anyway, no logical speak. No physicist in his right mind would take such a challenge for $1,100. I mean, I'm just saying, it's pretty good money for an hour's work if it's so easy. And again, he talked like it's a challenge. So he's saying that the challenge of defeating flat earthers is what? Some really difficult task? It's really hard to defeat a flat earther? And yet you're a fan of people who just waste their time debunking the simplest and easiest fail videos on Earth. So I don't get your argument here. If the character of the counter argument is the standard, then why are all of your heroes only defeating people who have the weakest argument? You know, religious kooks and you know, conspiracy kooks. I mean, there can't be any lower fruit, is there? I mean, that's fruit already on the ground. I mean, you know, so that doesn't make any sense. They seem to want the challenge of taking on people that have no logical speak. That makes it more fun. When the other person can't do logic, that makes it really easy to win, idiot. You can't even figure out how stupid you are. You're really this clueless. Okay, nobody would be afraid. Well, I mean, what's the other explanation? Well, I don't need $1,100. What would I do with $1,100? I buy a new TV and you know, pay for my BMW for a month? Just laugh hysterically. So whatever. Isn't that all you do? Isn't that what your friends do? Isn't that their whole occupation, is laughing at people? So why wouldn't I be good to laugh at? Asshole. Idiot. No, you're the one that's the free laugh card. Anyway, it is just a way for you to buy subs. Now, why would I buy them in the first place? What would I do with them exactly? What value do they have besides their capacity to produce an argument? So I clearly have no interest in subs for the sake of subs. What I have an interest in is somebody being able to articulate a counter argument, which you can't do because you're a dumb fuck. And you're also like a liar and a piece of scum for even saying this shit you don't back up. Okay, you retard. Um, you know. So you want to do? Are you willing to argue? You willing to do a live room, retard, and try to make a counter argument to a single assertion I will make? I'll make an assertion and you counter argue it. How about that, retard? But anyway, so there's clearly no indication I want subs for any other purpose than to have the argument with somebody capable of making it. That's it. There's no other purpose than to glean the link. Again, show me the link to the two-slit analysis done correctly. Show me the link to the analysis of even relativity, proving that time is a dimension. Show me your evidence that any of this crap is true, you fucking idiot. Oh, God, that's all I'm trying to glean. That's all I'm trying to find, is the counter argument to what I have stated, and there isn't any being made by you fucking lame assholes. Alright. Why do you even care? Did this guy break your heart? Well, that's not terribly relevant. So, he says here, Simon and Dan and Katz are friends of mine. So this is the funny part. Like, he's so clueless, he doesn't know that if I showed Simon and Dan and Katz, if we had to do it like in a live room, and I showed them your little virus song, that they'd be laughing their asses off, retard. They're not your friend, okay? You're just something to feed them. And that's it. They're feeding off of you, okay? Your support. They're using it to their financial advantage, and that's it. So yes, of course they'll call you your friend, because they want your money, asshole. Okay, the idea that physicists are afraid of him is ludicrous. Why don't you demonstrate that? Again, it's ludicrous that they wouldn't take $1,100 for something that's supposed to be really easy to do, which is to point out how I'm wrong. That should be really easy. Thunderfoot has 4 million subs. Like you said, why would he even notice? I'm just saying, what do you think he makes $1,100 a day? So he makes $367,000 a year or something? What's your theory? That it's not worth an hour's work for $1,100? Okay, anyway. Mr. Clownface Smiley. Well, that's kind of a fair way, an honest way versus a dishonest one. I don't know. What a load of horses shit. Anyway. They admitted on their own podcast that they're not prepared to debate Gary without some serious catch-up study beforehand. Well, apparently, yes. Apparently, my lack of logic requires some kind of work to figure out how you counter-argue the lack of logic. That is kind of a hilarious... anyway, so I guess he's just doing the same argument over again to him specifically, which is fine. No logical speak. Example, question mark. Yes, there won't be any example. And then Final Fantasy also chimes in. But anyway, I mean, clearly, like I said, it's, shouldn't make fun of retards, but he's clearly retarded, but he's asking for it, right? I mean, somebody should be watching and making sure the old man doesn't, embarrass himself. And apparently he doesn't have any people to watch and monitor his behavior. And so he goes out and he picks fights that he can't fight, And now and then he should get punched in the face, I suppose. He should get back what he's, serving. Let's see. Thunderfoot would be interesting. As I recall, he tends to struggle with live debates. I don't know if he seems to struggle with logic, so that's the real problem with Thunderfoot, right? Instead of arguing theism, he attempts to defend nihilism. Okay, so that's what gets him into trouble, because, obviously you're going to look like an asshole when you're defending nihilism. So he's too stupid to know when he's supposed to be attacking and when he's supposed to be defending. And again, when I debated him on a little section of subject, antinatalism, he came up with the brilliant argument that antinatalism will go extinct because, they don't breed. And so, therefore, they'll go extinct because it's not a meme or a philosophy. It's somehow a genetic disorder. A really dumb argument. Disproven by the fact that my parents weren't anti-natalists. Clearly. Plain and simple, they are chicken shit, fucking cowards, shit, Mandan, Baldy cats, all of them. You know who you are, assholes. Blah, blah, blah. Yes, well. Hope it happens, okay. Really hope this happens. Well, hoping is one thing, you know, contributing is another. So really, thank you to the people who have contributed. I mean, it's realistically, you know, I've gotten a couple of ambiguous support messages, so I don't want to go that high. And some people who I don't really think can afford it, or, you know, and so I'm not going to, you know, the number could be, you know, 15, 1600 by now, but I'm not too sure about some of the contributions, so I'm limiting it a little bit. I did offer Thunderfoot in an email. I did offer him $1,300. I haven't got any reply. Actually, I hope it turns into a series of debates. Yeah, you know, once you get the one, then you're going to get the other and the other, because see, all the people who have fallen for this stuff, but really are smart. They've just been tricked, and they'll start to realize it, and then, but they'll still try to defend their crap, and they're just going to generate, you know, conversation, and those conversations will generate conversation. So it's just a, you know, once the ball gets rolling, in terms of you have to defeat this guy, then the contenders are all going to show up to try to defeat me. Because see, they're going to watch the first guy fail, and then they're going to want to do it, and then they're going to fail. It's sort of like I had a battle with the Amazing Atheist years ago, and he failed, and so then other people said, well, shit, we have to destroy this fucker, and too bad our real guy got drunk and failed. So then the others all tried to take a shot because they knew they could get huge cred by defeating somebody Mike Tyson got beaten by, that kind of thing. Yeah. All right. I'd gladly pay for the one on gravity myself. Well, see, that's you're saying that, but would you really, you know, if it's what, $1,500? I mean, you know, see, these are the ambiguous kind of statements that are, you know, not very useful. Yeah. So this is you know, this is another YouTube gripe, though. If I edit this post, it unpins it, which is really retarded. I mean, I never was a big fan of this pinning shit, but I mean, if I pin the fucking thing, it's pinned. Why does it unpin when I edit it? Too stupid. All right, so AB Science. We had a little conversation. It was just, you're just like, what the fuck? All right, how about just creating a quick video in which you give a quick summary of the issues you have? Okay, well, I've sort of done that by putting them in playlists, all this other stuff. So I sort of explained that, and then I gave Cats the little narrow video. And instead of just saying, oh, okay, cool, I didn't realize there were playlists. I never heard of those. You know, instead of saying something to concede, he's just backseat driving and assuming that, well, every video I have to point out, go to the playlist because you're too stupid, and subscribe to the channel, and ring the little bell, and remember to wash your hands, and to, you know, don't touch your eyes, and I have to explain everything to you in every video because you're all too fucking stupid. No, I think if I have to do all of that crap, if I have to tell somebody what a playlist is, and I have to tell them how to find my videos, then they're too stupid to have a conversation about physics. It's just probably a huge correlation between not knowing what subscribing is, and not knowing what playlists are, and not knowing what channel pages are, not knowing all that stuff, and not being able to do any physics. I think there's probably a huge correlation. Okay. It's really a question of opinion. It's a question about knowing what to explain and how to explain it. I think it's a question about knowing. Anyway, say the arguments are plainly stated in most all the videos, relativity and the wave theory, and then I point out how I can't do a 3-minute video on physics, right? So I'm basically saying I'm going to be burying all of physics, you know. And you can't do that, you know, in 3 minutes. I say here, you are kind of arguing I should be able to blow up 100 years of physics with a 3-minute video. Fair cop not. That ain't going to happen. If people interested in physics can't spend enough time then there's no point. And all I can do is point out is if you look at the two-slit analysis, it's pretty solid in terms of explaining how, yeah, it could be a particle theory really easy. And if you look at my video on magnetism, you can see how, damn, that really does work. I mean, thinking about a magnet as a filter of energy that already exists explains where it gets the energy from. That it's not manufacturing it. It explains why the magnet's not hot, or why it's not radioactive, or why it doesn't get tired. Is because it's just filtering. It's not doing any work. Okay. So then AB Science says, I'm not sure why you're arguing this point. Well, because you kept arguing it. I recommended that you put a quick video up which outlines some of your points so people don't have to sift through your videos. Well, they really do, because you can only do one subject at a time. And to understand a unification theory, you're probably going to have to understand it on each level of the subjects to understand how they got unified. You linked a video in which you did exactly that. Job done. Well, you should have said that back there. And then I wouldn't have bothered explaining to you that I can't make a 3-minute unification of physics video. Gee, fuckhead. Anyway, I think I did ask him to do a two-slit video. So I thought I did ask him to do that. I don't know if he probably won't, obviously. Yeah, so I said right here, shown to be supported by suspect evidence. Do a two-slit video and I will explain quite clearly how you got most of it wrong. Yeah. So no one will take that challenge either. I think we should all go to the Baldy. We already did this Twitter thing. Okay, Draft Dodger. Okay, good enough. Alright, so that's it for the comments. And so the rest of the video, I will, I think, just play with a few subjects. So this should be theory of everything controversy. So it has the Sabine Hassenpfeffer and the Eric Weinstein guy, who has a channel that, okay, I haven't watched the interviews yet. So he has interviews, some 40. It's kind of like the other guy, Sean Carroll, his interview kind of videos. And they don't seem to be with all physicists, and it's all kind of all over the place, and so who knows. I mean, he's got one with Sam Harris, which I guess I should watch, because it might be interesting. So clearly a guy who's pretty well spoken, he's articulate and all that crap, but he's another guy who thinks, oh, physics is broken, but he doesn't think the broken part is in the silly standard model or in this silly explanation of gravity as being some sort of bent nothing. That's not the part that's broken. It's the part after that that's broken, which just is just so wrong-headed. So anyway, so I don't know. Let's see. I've sent him emails in the past and I haven't got anything. So, because he does seem to be a dissenter, but his dissent isn't nearly deep enough in understanding that they got it wrong right from the beginning. I mean, they got it wrong really early in the process. So that's what I think I will go over is, we'll just put this over here. To the hell with that. Well, I guess I should imply it, so I'll leave it in here in the middle so you can see part of it, and then people will be curious. Goo is? What is goo? Yeah. These people are so smart. I didn't properly clean the board, but you'll have to live with that. It's only me here at the whatever draft physics studio, and so some of the work just isn't going to get done because I just don't have time for dusting and cleaning and all that crap. But anyway, so the simple idea is the push-pull one, right? I mean, it's just, I can't state it often enough, but I mean, this is where you start. Like almost Aristotle could do this one, right? Where you could say to yourself, okay, I get banging into things. I get something hits something, something moves, hits something, the thing it hits, it moves. I get that. Okay, that's how movement is transferred. And then that would be very conservational in the sense that you would know that the movement never dies, right? I mean, it's just transferred from one thing to another. Now, as I've explained with the theory of gravity, is that, if you understand the universe is just force, the stuff moving the speed of light, and then this matter, this clunky matter stuff, then you could sort of understand that the little force bit moving c, when it hits the matter bit, it sticks, it has to push through it, but it can't go through it. And the matter bit slows it down just a little tiny bit. So it goes less than c, right? A little bit less than c, this thing moves. And then the matter bit is released because it hits a new piece of force, and they're going this way, and both of them reflect, and blah, 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 blah. So it's all conservational in terms of the actions. But the thing that you never conserve is the fact that while the force was moving the matter, it wasn't going c anymore, so it lost some momentum. So even though the whole system is very conservational and energy is never destroyed, see, that was a dangerous statement because, oh yeah, a little tiny bit is. And that's what makes gravity. That little bit of the fact that matter in the way it moves will destroy a little bit of energy in the universe, means that more goes in than actually comes out. And so it does have a flow into every piece of matter, because every piece of matter is essentially destroying a little bit of energy in the universe. It's a little colder in here than it is out here, always. And that's gravity. So anyway, that's a more complex argument than this one we're going for. So I'm just saying that we can understand push. Now, as soon as I say pull to you, what the fuck's a pull? All right, especially when I say pull this thing into that thing with no other things. You don't have any arms, okay? You can't go out and grab it. All right, the little particles don't have arms. You can't, so that ain't gonna work. You don't have telepathy. You don't have whatever the word is for that ability to knock planes out of the sky with your brain. You don't have anything. So what can you do to make something move towards? Okay, there's just nothing, right? There's no opposite to push. Okay, pull is not the opposite of push. Pull is nothing. It just doesn't exist. So all you have to make a pull is to invert the push. The opposite of the push is to invert its direction. Change its direction, and now it will push something into it. And from this guy's perspective, oh, this looks pulley. Okay, I'm seeing some pulliness. But you never pulled. All you did was absorb a piece of energy. And now the energy didn't get to this guy, right? You could draw it this way. And by absorbing that little bit of energy, you denied this thing a little bit of push. So all you're doing is saying, well, if I remove push, so if I make a minus push, right? That is, I take away something, the equal arrows. There's two equal arrows pushing from both sides. Well, if I take a little bit of this arrow away, make it a little smaller arrow, you could clearly understand now I've created push, a push that makes a pull. So pull is just minus push. So minus push equals pull. You kind of get that? So that would be one of these elemental conclusions that you could figure out, is that there is no opposite of push. There's just the inverse of push. Doing the opposite direction thing. And so that's a starting point, is understanding there's just no magical forces, right? We're going to start to do physics without the assumption that there's just something where you say, it just magically moves. No, there's nothing magically moving. It has to get pushed. It has to get hit by something and pushed into something. And the only way, again, you can make something move towards something is to eliminate the counter force, the counter push. So there's only somebody, Sisyphus. You only have one Sisyphus. He's on this side pushing. Okay, and you take away the guy pushing from this side, and so obviously the ball will roll. But if I put another Sisyphus right on the opposite side of Sisyphus, well, he's not going to go anywhere. And what he might do, depending on how tired the Sisyphuses get, this one might get tired, and then this ball will roll a little bit this way, but then this one gets strong, and he pushes the ball back this way, so something could wobble. in this space of force, because the force is constantly changing. There's constantly a little extra over here, or a little extra over here, you know, a little less over here, so it's constantly wobbling. And by constantly wobbling, each one of those movements, it took a little bit of energy out of the universe. So as the electron sits and wobbles and moves from here to here, as it does its superposition cloud thing, which isn't a cloud, it's just the fact that the damn thing is wobbling from these positions. It moves from here to here, 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 here. So it's just wobbling. And with each one of those wobbles in a different direction, it steals a little bit of energy from the universe, because the wobble, the movement is a little slower than the speed of light. And now anything over here is going to say, I have a bigger Sisyphus, and there's this big fat Sisyphus is this guy over here, and this one's a little smaller, and the big one's going to push over the little one. And now you have gravity. Now you start your game. All right, and but understand, it's just push-pull. This is a place you have to start. If their theory has something in it that just says it moves by magic, I argue you're not really doing physics. You're doing spirituality and religion and all kinds of things, but it's not physics. Physics is explaining the whys with process, with mechanism. And if you're going to sit there and do this God does play dice with the universe thing, God does randomize, the random fairies do randomize movement, it just randomly moves from here to here by magic, that's not preferable, let's just say. That's a last resort, okay? That's a last resort theory, okay? After you've spent a few million years contemplating real mechanisms, then you give up and say, okay, let's just accept that this thing magically moved. But you do that as a last resort, okay? That's not the first choice, that's the last choice. So that's what they've gotten fundamentally backwards in philosophy and everything else. They really don't understand that, you know, the whole engine of life is a negative engine. You're just trying to fix the negatives. You're just trying to prevent the negatives. You're not really chasing a positive. And the truth is, the universe is a push universe, okay? It's push. It is not pull. All right, so then the other complication is, so once you got gravity done, then you just have to figure out how to do this, you know, magnetism thing and the electricity thing. And I believe I can make a pretty rational argument, but not a complete argument, why you really don't have a choice. There's no way to create the circumstance. So what we know is that I can create an environment, and I can have these two particles, you know, an electron and a proton, and in the same environment, they'll do exactly the opposite thing. Okay, the proton will go this way, and let's say, and the electron will go this way. So no matter what the environment is, these two things will do exactly the opposite. I'm not going to be able to explain that using one mechanism. I'm not going to be able to create one ball that you throw, okay, that enables that to happen. It's just not going to work. And it's hard to go through all the permutations of why it can't work. But it just can't create the inverse, you know, in the sense the exact opposite. In terms of every kind of environment I make, it does the exact opposite. It's just not going to explain a magnet. And so I really do need to understand that there has to be two elements to go with, there has to be two elemental forces to go with the two elemental kinds of matter. So we know these two are exact opposites, and it makes some sense to say, well, if you're going to have two different kinds of matter that act exactly the opposite, plus and minus, north and south, then it makes every kind of almost bit of sense to understand that you know, their correlation would go to the force, that the force would also be of these two types. And now we have the inverse relationship, where you can understand that when the electron force hits the proton, it does one thing, which is leaves perpendicularly, and when the proton force hits the proton, it reflects perfectly, and causes momentum in the right direction, not sideways momentum. So all you're really saying is that you can make the force move through something, or there's a circumstance where the force turns. So those are your two choices of interaction: straight and a turn, in and out, or left and right, into the second and third dimension. You just move the momentum into the other dimensions. So those are your two different interactions. So you just have two kinds of force, two kinds of matter, and two choices of interaction. And with that mechanism, okay, as I've explained many times, you can create a magnet. You can understand why atoms in a certain arrangement will just consistently do this thing, where if the electron force hits this magnet, it bounces off. So what you see is what you get. It's a mirror. If the electron force goes into the purple thing, it's directed down into the other end, and it comes out as an electron force. And so this side of the magnet will look all electron. Okay, it'd just be a ton of the electron force coming out. And the other side is doing exactly the inverse. The purple thing comes in here and it goes out this way. So it's going to be all purple, the reflected purple. The purple that hits just reflects, so it's all purple here. So now you have a magnet, because now you have all purple force coming out one end and all electron force coming out the other end. And now an electron seeing this force is going to go this way, and the proton seeing this force will go this way because of those left-handed rules, and inverse on the other side. And you'll get the magnets to flip, and you'll get them to do all the stuff that magnetism does, because you'll understand the magnet's just a filter, and that if I break it, I'm just breaking the filter, and so it's going to do still doing exactly the same thing. Okay, if I break it, it's still doing the same thing. The stuff going this way goes out this way, and the stuff going, and it just creates a new magnet, because there's nothing. It's all just an orientation of the atom saying go this way if you're purple, and go that way if you're an electron. If you're electron force. And so it's always just going to do the same thing. And so it explains what a magnet is. It explains why there's magnets don't get hot, and why they don't get cold, and why they don't get tired, and why they don't wear out, and why all that stuff is now explained, because all the energy is just in a reconfiguration of the force. And so it's just like if I had a mixture of soldiers, one of them that pours gasoline on people, and then the other ones light the fuse. And if I have them all mixed up, well, then a bunch of my soldiers end up, lighting the gasoline before the gasoline is there, right? So they light it, but they spark it, but there's no gas, so there's no fire, and vice versa. And so I end up really inefficient in terms of burning up my enemies, because I'm throwing the igniter before I threw the dynamite. And so you can understand that how that's not gonna be very effective. But if I have something that organizes it and forces it to be in the right order, then the thing's going to be a lot more efficient. And that's all a magnet's doing. It's just filtering energy. And by filtering it, it's making it more powerful, because instead of doing yin-yang, instead of going this way, like plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, it's going all this way and all that way. And so now the force is a lot more powerful in terms of causing movement, because you've taken all the bits going this way and put them in a row, and all the bits going this way and put them over here. And so now there's places where it's all this way and places where it's all this way, and so now real distance can be covered, where before you would just, chewing your cud. You weren't getting anywhere. You never swallowed, or however the metaphor. Well, anyway, you can understand that this makes the magnet look. It gives it potential to force something else to move because it's creating a field difference that's substantially different. It's segregating the force, and therefore I'm obviously making it impossible for an electron to jitter back and forth. Now it's going to move away, or it's going to move towards. And so yeah, it works so well. It's quite complete. It fits all the evidence. And again, it's so elemental, and it's just really about this fact that the core function is pressure. And all you're really doing is saying you can modify the pressure. You can make more push, or you can make less push. And where you make more and where you make less will cause objects to move. And that's it. So it's just one kind of mechanism, push, and you're really just saying that I can have a circumstance where the push just changes the dimension. The push just ends up moving from this dimension, going this way, and it goes that way instead. And as long as I can do that for free in the universe, as long as that mechanism exists, then yeah, you can have this very complex universe that can evolve out of that. And so that's where I think they like I said, they have to go back to the foundations of mechanical logic. I said it in my own, 10 years ago I knew that was the argument, because 10 years ago I'm saying you have to go back to Newton, realistically, and just say, okay, that's the stuff we know, now let's move forward from there in a rational manner, whether in an irrational one. And what happened in 1930s or the 1920s was a bunch of impatient physicists decided to make declarations about what the theory was, that they just pushed the evidence. They cheated it. And the New York Times cheated it, and everybody cheated it because they wanted an answer. And apparently they were okay with a pretty silly answer, as long as it was an answer. They wanted the question answered. And they cheated to get there sooner than they were ready. They hadn't really thought about it very well and thought through it. And again, if it's not that complicated. Start with push, and then you figure out a way to eat energy somewhere, to create an imbalance. And the first imbalance is understanding that when you move matter, you degrade force. A force has less reality in the universe when it has to push a piece of matter. It loses a little bit of its momentum. It arrives later. And arriving later is the same as being weaker in terms of how the universe functions. It's probably enough of the elemental stuff, but that's where you really have to go back to the Aristotle kind of question and start with the question of what causes motion. And the most obvious way to cause motion is to hit something. And when you hit it, it doesn't come towards you. Okay? It moves away from you. That's the rule. That's the logic of the momentum being conserved. And so if you go back to those basic conservation laws and the basic mechanism laws, the model can be constructed. Again, it's only 2 plus 2 plus 2. It's all it takes. It's not like you have to do a lot of different drawings. You just do a little bit of scribbling, and this falls into place. And I demonstrate that. I've demonstrated over the last 10 years how it doesn't take much scribbling, to make it work, to have it all fall into place, to figure out, oh, that's the catch. Oh, that's the catch. And they're really simple catches. All right. Again, back to Feynman's description of a gigantic checkerboard with very simple rules, and we're just lost in the complexity of the fact that there's so many checkers. This is the checkerboard. 2 plus 2 plus 2. 2 kinds of force, 2 kinds of interaction, 2 kinds of matter, 2 kinds of interaction. And that's as simple as a checkerboard. 2 color squares, 2 kinds of checkers, Okay, two ways to move, you know, perpendicular and diagonally. It really is a great metaphor in that sense, is that the truth, yeah, it's not a checkerboard. The simple rules are a little different than just being black and red and being, you know, round checkers and being squares on a board. But it's that simple. It's as simple as the mechanics of a checkerboard. And so, you know, this really needs to be argued to point out why this insanely simple mechanism can't be the truth. Yeah, I mean, I've done my job here. The opposition isn't doing theirs.